First, we were told over and over by President Biden, by Republicans, and by Democrats, all of them, that standing up to Vladimir Putin in Ukraine would deter China. It would frighten Iran and generally put the world's bad boys in their place. It would, in the term that's often used in Washington, it would send a message. So let's go country by country. Take a little bit of stock of where we are, the responses of the world's bad boys. We'll start with China. China launched military drills today, cutting off Taiwan and showing the world what an invasion of the democratic enclave would like. As I said, we'll go country by country. Russia invaded Ukraine, cut off natural gas to Europe. They've also meddled in U.S. elections. China is threatening to invade Taiwan and is known to steal U.S. technology. Plus, there's the COVID cover-up. Well, we still don't know whether and exactly how it got out of the lab. Iran is plotting to build a nuclear weapon. They continue to threaten to destroy Israel and sponsor terror around the world. Venezuela, where the leaders have orchestrated sham elections and created a domestic economic crisis. You might say that they sent their message back. And just like in the old sandbox, the reciprocity multiplier applies. This is what we're looking at now. International Army Games host nations, 36 of the world's authoritarian regimes. Some of them, you might look at this map and say, we're supposed to think of them as friends, like Saudi Arabia, who we sell billions of dollars in arms to. Vietnam, who's supposed to be helping the United States confront China. Same with India, Azerbaijan as well. But take that and put it aside for a second. All of these countries are going to participate in war games with Russia coming up in the next couple of weeks. Typically, it's the Russians that host these games. But no, in a not so subtle message, they are not hosting them in Russia. They are hosting them in Venezuela, just a few hundred miles from U.S. territory. It's really a thumb in the eye to America that since President Monroe back in the 1800s, 1826, 1823 it is, I'll get my history right, proclaimed America the protector of the Western Hemisphere. So let's recap what's happened in the world since we sent our message. Russia invades Ukraine. Iran moving closer to nuclear weapons. China surrounding an ally here, Taiwan, and sending missiles not only across Taiwan here, but also into Japan's economic zones in their waters. What did we do in response to all this? What is our next message? The United States canceled a long-planned ICBM test. The Biden administration said today they think that will lower tensions. Kelly Meyer starts us off in Washington with a little more of their explanation. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Leland. Well, the White House says they felt like they should give China time to cool off after Pelosi's Taiwan stop, saying the temperature right now there is pretty high. And that's why they say they decided to reschedule, not cancel, a planned ICBM test that was set for this week from Vandenberg Air Force Base in Santa Barbara, California, calling it taking the high road.
The United States is demonstrating instead the behavior of a responsible nuclear power by reducing the risks of miscalculation and misperception.
And Kirby says this will not in any way impact our readiness and that the test is still going to happen in the near future, they say. Leland?
You've known Admiral Kirby for a long time, had a lot of great exchanges with him back when he was at the Pentagon as well. There seemed to be a decided change in tone from the White House podium today vis-a-vis China. Is it as simple as Nancy Pelosi's gone from Taiwan and the administration decides they're going to take a harder line?
Well, he even kind of gave a playbook in the days leading up, preparing for this reaction from China. And he was pretty forceful on the stage today, taking a stand against China's missile strikes across the Taiwan Strait, calling them irresponsible and provocative. He says China is overreacting to Pelosi's visit, but he says the reaction is right out of Beijing's playbook, so they're not surprised, but they're prepared for what's next.
We will not seek, nor do we want, a crisis. At the same time, we will not be deterred from operating in the seas and the skies of the Western Pacific, consistent with international law, as we have for decades.
And the U.S. Showing off some quiet confidence by leaving the USS Reagan and her strike group, which is currently in the South China Sea, in position to, quote, monitor the situation. Leland?
Yeah, only one carrier strike group. The last time this happened in the 90s, there were already two there. Kelly, thank you. Great reporting. We bring in retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. Listen to Admiral Kirby. We do not seek a crisis. Aren't we already in one?
Yes, Leland, we are already in one. And to be very honest with you, I'm not sure that there's anything that the Biden administration can do now that's going to in any way de-escalate what we're seeing right now, because I think that there's nothing they can do to convince Xi or Putin or any other world leader that they're strong. I think they're seen as being very weak, and that's what we're seeing right now as a result of them not having a very high regard for America's administration right now.
There's really no other way to read this except for saying, kind of daring the United States to do something. If you surround an American ally, really what, 12, 24 hours the Chinese could take Taiwan? And could the Reagan carrier group do that much about it?
First of all, let me say this, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but taking Taiwan is not going to be an easy proposition for the Chinese. The Chinese haven't been to war since the Korean War. The Chinese have very little experience, if any at all, in amphibious operations. And since 1949, Taiwan has only had one enemy, and that's China, and they have had plenty of time to prepare for what they knew was the inevitable, and that was an all-out effort to take over Taiwan by the Chinese Communist Party. So they're the most high-tech country in America, in the world. They are the most high-tech country, and they've got all kinds of technology that we don't even know about. So I don't think it will be 2 or 3 days. I think it's going to be more a matter of experiencing what the Russians have experienced up to this point. The Russians are still taking ground, but it's cost them a great deal. So I think that the Taiwan battle will wind up being far more difficult than the Chinese expect.
We've had that map up before that shows where the Chinese are firing in this war game, if you will. It's sort of a mock invasion, but they've completely surrounded Taiwan. Obviously, you've got the straits that are 100 miles, but they're firing missiles not only into all of those red boxes, but from them as well, surrounding the island. There's been some discussion by President Biden that the U.S. would come to Taiwan's military aid in the event of an invasion. If the Chinese have surrounded Taiwan in that way, coming to their aid, Taiwan's aid, is going to look very different than coming to, say, Ukraine's aid, right?
Oh, definitely. And it's going to be more of a naval battle than what we've seen in the Ukraine. But listen, this is called strategic ambiguity. I think you've heard that term used a number of times. What is our policy towards the Taiwan people, the island there itself? What is our responsibility? And we classify it as strategic ambiguity because we leave the flexibility in what we have right now as statutes, as agreements that we can.
I guess what I was saying, though, that if we decided to come to their aid, and the president may have 24 hours to make that decision from the time that an invasion began, that would put American lives, both sailors, airmen, Marines, soldiers, on the line in a very different way than it did in Ukraine. You can't fly C-17s into Guam and take the missiles over. You've got to fly stuff into Taiwan through all these Chinese air defenses.
Yeah, there's no question about that. But look, don't underestimate the power of a modern aircraft carrier in the hands of people who know what they're doing. It takes a long time to learn to do flight operations, I'm told by my Navy admirals friends. And the Chinese, although they have aircraft carriers now, they haven't been at this very long. And don't think that the Reagan couldn't be a formidable force out there. But I would also hope that we would immediately rush in other fleets to stand with them. And look, again, what we don't want to see is we don't want to see America left out when we should be supporting our allies. And I think that the reason that we have agreements with different countries and alliances, military alliances, is because we feel an obligation that we have to come to the defense of our allies. And I hope, even though Biden has said a lot of things that didn't make a lot of sense, he has said now, at least on 3 occasions, we would come to the defense of Taiwan. I hope that's the case. I don't want to see Americans die either, but we've got to draw the line somewhere, because our most
I got 30 seconds, but I got to
China.
I got to get this in. By not showing more force right now, by canceling the ICBM test, by only having the carrier strike group a few hundred miles away, not anywhere around Taiwan, by only having one carrier strike group there, is that telegraphing enough strength to the Chinese?
No, I'd like to see us put another fleet out there. I'd like to see us put another carrier out there, and anything else that our military experts would determine would be a real message and a real capability.
Yeah, that's exactly what Bill Clinton did in '96, and the Chinese backed down. General, it's good to see you. We really appreciate the time. Thank you. Amazing analysis. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.